I can insert, and I'm going to share if you want to use it. Of course, he's going to have the database hopefully here in the next whenever.
All right, we're
Mhm.
live. We just went straight to live. Don't pass go. Don't ask questions.
And I don't have $200.
Yeah, going to try
Straight to
and
fucking jail.
kick open the chat so that we can see people. And let's see here. Do something, please. So, the reason why we didn't start the timer, all that stuff, if you're watching this after we get done with this later on today, we had technical problems to start off, to kick off the show. Sound was not working. So, to fix that problem, I just went straight through with the sound all on, and yeah, here we are. We're started. We're going. We're good. This is the Week 17 remix, and because of all of that, there's going to be a little bit of dead time as I have to share tweets with people to get it sent out so you guys can see it. But my name, I am Nathan. I'm at Nate Cheat on Hard to Hear Nate. What the fuck? I don't even. Oh, what?
Plug your mic in.
How the fuck do you
Fucking
think?
sorry.
I mean, you're.
I'm fucking with you, man. I'm trying to get it lightened up, man. Breathe.
I haven't even
breathe.
had my fucking coffee yet this morning.
Yeah, but just breathe, man. I was breathe. Looks
Fuck
like
you,
we're...
Sam. You did all of that just. Oh.
What a dick.
What'd he do? I missed it.
He says he can only hear me through his left headphones. Apparently, his stuff's fucked up. It's not me. I was gonna say my
So we were
levels are
good the
just
whole
fine.
time.
My levels are just fine. God damn it.
Good to hear
So
from
he
you,
was
Sam.
fucking with you?
Yeah, he was fucking with me.
Oh, Sam, that's dirty, dog.
It's a dick move.
Yeah.
Dick move.
So I'm joined today
Funny as fuck, but dick move.
with Gary at H Bogart 27,
Hey,
Joseph, Joey the Tooth at Joseph Hagen.
What's up?
Sam, just I don't even know what to say to you, man. If you can't hear me, then I don't know. Are you someone checking on it? I thought I heard something in the background.
that would be me.
Yeah. How's
Just
this?
give me 1 second. 1 second, and I'll make it all disappear. I just wanted to get the one tweet off. All right. In which I was mentioning, did you know you could tweet from the...
In his own microphone. From this computer.
Yeah, it was me, man. It was me. Look, Nate.
Yeah, I see you.
Okay. I fucked you up. See, so I just fucked with you too, unintentionally, unlike Sam.
Uh-huh. I don't know what you mean you're fucking with me.
Well, if you could hear the
I was
background.
just asking if you were checking on the sound quality. Like
No.
clicking on the stream to see. Oh. What?
I was just trying to retweet. I was trying to tweet it out. I was trying to use.
Yeah, we have good sound.
Okay, cool. That was all I was
what-
asking.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
I just clicked on it. We have good sound.
Okay,
That-
cool.
That was all I was asking. So
We
now
are
that the-
organized, people.
the
This is
train
the last
derailed.
fucking week. This is the last thing. John's off. John's off MIA. He's laughing at McDonald's right now, eating a McMuffin, and fucking Sam is
Joke's on him.
joke. Yeah. Sam's off doing his own thing. Just bear with us, folks. You know, get those questions coming in if you got any.
Yeah.
I really hope most of you don't have these playoffs in this week 17. I mean, you guys are missing a lot of people, but if you do have any questions or any need any advice, I'm sure that we'll be able to handle it for you.
Mm-hmm. So, off the top, how did you guys do in your Final Fantasy games?
I did win my championship.
Nice.
It came down.
How
It
many
came
leagues?
real tight.
How many leagues were you in?
I was in 3.
Yeah.
I got a first place, a fourth, and a fifth.
Nice.
But the first place is the one that I'm mostly focused on. That's where we get a whole like WWF Championship belt with your name engraved on it,
Mm.
and it's my third time on the belt now, so
Huh.
with a nice little payout.
Yeah. I'm pretty hyped up after 10 years, never missing the playoffs in the 32 team format, the flagship that I keep talking about. Finally, after I've been in the championship twice, I brought the fucking ring home.
Very
Nice.
nice.
Yeah, I was really stoked about that. And then but overall, I was let's see, I was 3 wins and 1/5. 3
Nice.
championships, yep, out of 4. So yeah, I can't complain. It was pretty sweet. Pretty sweet.
Did you end up beating Johnny?
I
John.
did. I beat
You
John.
did.
I don't know how it happened. He just had a bad week.
Wow.
I think he was.
Fantasy gods can be mean.
Yeah, I beat him by like 20, 30 points too.
Lorenzo Alexander.
Yeah, I had some good guys on there. So Sam wants to be the diva. He isn't even joining us on the show, but he wants to be recognized as the Scott Fishbowl 8 championship right now. But I'm not going to give him
Well,
that.
by right,
I'm not
I
gonna give him
suppose
that.
by right he should be
Yeah.
Mr. Celebrity.
Yeah, getting found at the local bar, the local watering hole, having people from
Cheesing for pictures.
yeah, cheesing
Yeah.
for pictures.
Yeah.
I can't even do it. Oh, maybe if you caught me while I was taking a shit, you might get that from me, but I can't.
Only if you're forcing it.
Yeah. Hey, in all reality, though, congratulations to
Yeah.
you, Sam. Man, yeah,
That's pretty badass.
that's badass. Yeah, exactly. Now, hopefully, you can just bring some of that knowledge to the table when you join us.
Yeah. So we should be having Sam on the next episode of the IDP, guys. We do semi-apologize. We didn't put out a show this week. It was Christmas, so we decided to spend the holidays with our family, and we just didn't talk football. It was after the championship anyways, so you shouldn't be going. You shouldn't be playing Week 17 playoffs.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of
This is
crazy
weird.
if you are. I mean, considering folks, I mean, if you're in a league like that, talk to the commish. You know, it doesn't take but a few clicks of a scheduling and some other shit in these leagues to get it to where you're competing for your championship in week 16. You know, it just really, I really feel bad for you if you're paying for this. If you're
Yeah,
in a
week
paid
17
site.
championships are tough, man. You got people who just sit to be healthy for the actual playoffs, so say you got your top tier guys, now they're sitting and you're screwed for
Yeah.
your championship game.
Oh yeah, all the people that got you here are missing. You
Mhm.
can't even use them. And then the guy you're playing is turning around and he picked up some lucky depth 3 player that kicks
Mhm.
your ass, you know? So yeah, it's a lose-lose in this situation. And not too much to brag if you do win in 17, I don't think either, because it's got to be luck, right? Pure
Yeah,
luck.
pretty much. I mean, what do you?
Yeah.
You've got to replace most of your heavy hitters with guys off the waiver wire,
Right.
and then you're kind of like hoping those guys do much of anything. And you're talking about you're going this whole season. You've been playing this whole season, dealt with the buys, dealt with all this stuff, all of these,
Willed and dealed, all that.
yeah, all of these, different strategies that like help you gain an edge to just dice throw it at the end.
Yep.
It's-
You've built a team that brought you all the way to the championship game, and now it's like, well, now I need to make 3 or 4 waiver moves just to actually have a full lineup.
Right.
A
exactly.
true lottery ticket.
I mean, I've played that on ESPN as a 2-week playoff before.
I don't even like those.
But it's not. Yeah, it's not. Man, this year I played at ESPN, and I had one league. It was actually who was it? Fantasy and Frames. I joined the fantasy. It was the very first league that I joined this past year. I did it in fucking February. And it was hosted by Fantasy and Frames. They also do some IDP stuff. which I think we've covered a little bit of. But it was 2-week playoffs going into week 17, and I was like undefeated. I think I had 2 losses. I was ready for. I had the best team. Like I don't know. It was the first draft. I was like fucking hot, and I hit all the right spots. Fucking lost because of the second week of that 2-week playoff, and I was just like, man, that sucks.
Yeah, like that's cool. That great draft just went into the toilet for week 17.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan. So the second week was actually in 16 though. That you lost that name.
Oh, I understand that. I'm just saying.
Well, I was asking. I was just making sure.
It was 14,
I don't
15,
like the 2.
16, 17. So 14,
Yeah,
15.
I don't know why ESPN has that as their standard. I don't know why ESPN has that in, because I actually caught it in the tipster leagues that I hosted or whatever. Mm-hmm. And right when, I was like, well, what the fuck's this about? Because the playoffs should be starting. And I looked and I seen it, figured it out, and I changed it at the last moment. Because I would have never thought that was their standard setting. If you set up the league and you don't go in there and change that, that's what they give you is that 2-week, setup for the playoffs. That
weird.
makes no sense. Yeah. That's nobody else sets it up that way. I don't think, do they? I don't play Yahoo, so.
Yahoo's just week 16 the final.
At most, I think Yahoo will do a standard of just a 2-week 4-team playoff, so you have to change it to 6. But it's like something that they ask you as you set it up, like, how do you want to do your playoffs? It's not like leave it to chance, like you have to go back in and fix it. It's so.
You guys ever played on NFL.com?
Yeah.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Do they have an IDP setup, or is it just pure offense?
I haven't played on it for years either, but I always found them pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Almost ESPN and them. They really something. You would think they'd do something. As much cash as they got flowing in,
so
they would do more.
I just want to interrupt here. We do have a question. This is our first very important, very football-minded question. Lamont87 asks, is that a blunt?
Yeah. I won't tell.
It's a Swisher Sweet, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's
a smoker's choice,
line,
bro.
No, they're called 7.52s, and I'm a very, very tight ass. So when it comes to spending, money,
that's what.
When it comes to spending money, yeah. Well, I got to admit, I probably am because I've never been experimented. But either way, we're on the topip of what I'm smoking. It is actually.
I think a lot of people want to know what you're smoking.
After this year. Basis.
Yeah. I bet. But I used to smoke Camels, but when they started hitting $5 a pack and shit, I'm just too fucking cheap for that. So I went and I experimented, and these are like $1.20 a fucking pack. I can fucking smoke all I want, and I'm not butt hurt at the end of it.
Dude,
but thanks for asking.
Packs of cigarettes out here. I'm out in Connecticut, and dude, it's $12.
$10. 11? Yeah, $12.
Yeah.
Jeez, no way.
Yeah, I quit smoking about 10 years ago because it went from like $3.50 to $4.75, and I was like, that's way too much. And now it's like $11-12 a pack.
Yeah, I think they range. The name brands are like $5 to $6 or something. I mean, you can see them in the 7 area. But yeah, I get a carton of these fucking things for $12.
You want to start a business, Gary? Start trafficking them to me. I'll sell them for double the amount.
Every time I go through Ohio, I stop in Toledo and pick up a couple cartons, and I'm always able to find some people around here that need some distribution.
Black market cigarettes.
At that fucking price in Connecticut, hell, it'd be worth it to go south to Kentucky and save even more.
Yeah.
And buy them there, because I'm pretty sure they're a couple bucks cheaper a pack.
Jesus. Yeah, I remember when I first started. we're getting way off topic. I apologize to any
we are
listeners who came to this
Somebody
show wanting
asked
to listen to football analysis.
I gotta admit, though, I can't believe we made it this far because I've been doing these since September, and that's the first time somebody's asked me what the fuck is that. I think somebody's made a comment, but they've never asked.
Yeah.
So, but no,
I think we all
there's
just
no
figured
wacky weed
you
here.
were getting
It's just
stoned
cheap
as shit.
Yeah, it's not wacky weed, folks.
It makes
It's
sense
just,
with some of those takes you have.
Yeah, you'd think so. You'd think so. Well, little do y'all know, I'm just drunk as fuck when I'm doing these. So,
Oh man.
Back on topic, man. I'm really excited that you broke out the new site on Twitter for our IDP cast coming up, man.
Mm-hmm.
If you all would go and maybe give that a follow so that it's kind of primed and you don't miss out on anything, because we're going to keep that account active until we actually start getting some, podcast posts on there and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna make sure that we keep that active and in a great way to make sure that you don't miss out when we do hit the pods.
Yeah,
man.
That's at no BS IDP. I believe that's what it came out to.
That was sweet.
Yeah, I think that was a good choice for. I was trying to get the IDP in the Twitter handle because so many people will. I think they just like type in IDP and they'll just click on all the accounts that have it in their name when they want like a start.
When I first started on Twitter, that's what I did, that's how you guys came up.
Oh,
it's like IDP, and I was like, all right, I'll add him in.
Lucky us.
So Chess 1200 here is really pushing. He wants to talk some futures. Gary, do you have any futures that we can feed these people?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys hadn't caught our celebrity Sam's recent articles, I think Joe, hadn't you had some come out too?
Somewhat. I was more or less how the 49ers can fix their stuff.
Right.
And way back, I did some tops of each position just for draft wise.
Right. Well, I'm going to suggest then Chess, that you make sure that you've gotten a hold of those ones that Sam has recently put out over the last couple of weeks, because you'll see that there's actually, a lot of the futures that I wrote about over the season, he did basically a follow-up, I guess you could say. I don't know how to explain that, but I mean, he even mentions me in them. So, and I always appreciate that. And I always like it when Sam does kind of recap or go over or throw in his opinion on these two, because it kind of, solidifies what we're trying to do with those futures. So make sure you catch those out. But I mean, my favorite one, I mean, I've called my breakouts for next year. I had a lot of luck this year. And as good as I'd like to think that I am, people, I'm telling you, just like you all know, it's any given Sunday on any of this shit when it comes to fantasy football. And we can figure it out with all the formulas we want or all the way of approaching it. But realistically, when it really comes down to, it's what the fantasy gods allow to happen. So I had a lot of luck with Milano, John Johnson. I called them early. I like to think that I was actually the first person to make that call. That's why I did it in January. And this year, I've got Okaloon for the Falcons. I really think that when we enter next year, that we're going to see Okaloon as the weak side linebacker next to Deion Jones. That's my belief. Campbell they didn't re-sign him. He just he is finishing up his 4th year contract, rookie contract. So, I mean, there might even be some questions whether he's even a Falcon next year. And then, we all know Duke Rowley ended up being a bust, just like me and Sam called. Yeah. And I mean, I think Okaloon, for what he's done, if you put him right next to Deion Jones, he is a prototype just of Deion Jones. He's just a little bit bigger. He's just as smart. The guy was a Yale graduate. You know what I mean? You don't get into Yale to play football.
This is true.
You get to Yale to get your fucking education. Yeah. And then you play football if you're there. Yeah. So, I mean, the he's bright. And I think that's a lot of what helped him in this situation. But I really like him. And then I'm calling Carl Nassib as my DL guy. I really think that Vinny Curry could possibly be gone next year. They just signed him to a big ass contract. He underperformed. Carl Nassib got signed in, and he the last I checked, he was actually getting the starts over Curry now with Curry even healthy.
Yeah,
So I
Curry
really think they like
underperformed a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and Nassib, they'll probably be able to re-sign him going forward for a lot cheaper. So
Right.
I would look at him. And then, the Harrison call, the safety, rookie safety down there in Jacksonville, I really like him going next year. I made the call here on live. If you called it like 2 weeks or a week before, and I'd already mentioned it even before then, that I thought the Barry Church would be gone. And lo and behold, we had that live, and it was like 4 days later, and they fucking released them already.
Yeah,
So,
and when it comes down to the Jags too, they have zero cap space to go for free agency by any means. So when it comes down to that safety position, that's probably their weakest position on defense. So expect Harrison to have a big year next to Gibson. So in that safety line, he's actually probably the better safety of the two. So
I would say so. Yeah. Yep, that's great information. I didn't realize where they were strapped on the cap.
As of right now, they're actually over the cap. They're $5 million over, at least per Sport Track.
Right. They'll get a little bit of cushion. I think they're adding a little bit to the caps for the teams this year.
Right.
Still won't be enough to do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to add anybody who's going to take his job.
So I think the biggest thing we're going to be adding here soon that's going to really help with identifying guys to stash in Dynasty looking for next year. So Gary's been he came up with this formula a few years back, and it has a score, a PAPS. It's called this playmaking ability per snap score. And so it's a great way to kind of quantify what a player does during a full season and see how they rank in comparison. And
even per game.
Per game.
Even
yeah.
per game.
Well, we'll work on getting the per game stuff going. But right now we're going to do a full season this past season, quantify it with his PAP score, and it gives a way to gauge and compare players against each other in the same position group.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can see some interesting trends, see some players that come up or down a tier based off of that score, and kind of get ahead of knowing who's trending up who's trending up for the next season. Gary just actually wrote about it this today. It published. He's got a nice long article, explains it all. He's got a couple guys in there he's talking about. We're gonna be making a database actually on the website that's gonna have all the stats for these players. I'm working on it now, getting pretty much every single defensive player in the NFL, putting them in this database and putting their PAP score next to them so that you can sort and search and look based off of different quantifiers and find out, who's trending elite, who's trending below. I'm also working with Tyler Gee of at F3 Pod. He's a math teacher, and I'm really bad at math. We're going to try and take and go back to like 99 with all of the players, all of the scores, and try and find some trends. I'm thinking it's like a standard deviation where you look at, who's consistent. It basically would be a consistency score. So players that are consistently, not moving from their score, you can tell. So like if they're elite and they have a very low consistency score, that means they stay at that elite level throughout their career and don't move much. Whereas if there's like a high number next to it, they have a lot of variation. So it's just more means for you to do your research, look into the different players, and try and get ready for the next year. And then we're going to incorporate all that stuff into our articles, so that it's just more stuff for you guys to look at, to feel informed. And this is something coming. I'm just basically starting to look at it because Gary whipped out his Paps on me like a couple days ago when you wrote this article, and I had kind of forgotten about it since the off season.
I've been so busy I haven't actually whipped it out since last summer. Sam used it a couple times since the last time I did, but I mean I was concentrating on those other charts.
We need like 3 of you, Gary.
Yeah,
like,
that would be.
We just have 3.
Scary. That would be scary. We won't tell my wife anything.
I might quit if that happens. I'm sorry, guys.
Right. Oh yeah, Sam will come over and blow my house up.
Yeah.
Not to keep hashing out on this, folks, about the Paps. Okay, now I have done it. I came up with the formula, and I'm so happy that Nate is going this far with the database and everything, and we're going to start incorporating this. But I'm going to tell you why. I got so tired of looking at the PFF scores, which is real life grades on, players. It's not for fantasy football, so it doesn't always translate over into the fantasy realm. So you can have a really good, say, defensive tackle that's doing his job superbly, but the fact is his grade doesn't reflect the IDP production. So this formula, which we have used, or I have used a lot, it falls right in. It falls right into giving the formula that comes up with the grade and the score, the PAP score, and you can trust that it's there. It's just like the start-sit charts I've had for even longer. I know this works, and it's just basic information put together in a way that brings up that score. So
yeah, like if you look at guys based off of your PAP score, like if you just started playing IDP, you wouldn't think one of your top guys at linebacker would be Mason Foster.
Mm-hmm.
Mason Foster's been kind of like, he was a second guy in Tampa Bay. He gets to Washington, supposed to be the second guy behind Zach Brown. He ends up being a top producing linebacker and has one of the this year, and then has one of the higher PAP scores in the league.
So just to point out, Lamont 87 says some of the worst defenders are some of the best IDP players. This is basically quantifying that. It's the score is basically how many snaps it takes for this guy to make a point, basically. Right. And the I'm trying to remember your scale here because it's
it depends what it is. I mean, if you're looking at a inside linebacker, 5 in the 5 range is elite. Mm-hmm. 6 is high end. 7 is good. If you go and you skip to, say, the strong safety, then it kind of just moves up the scale, and 6 is elite, 7 is high end. And I know all this in my head. Yeah. I got to get it out on paper for you. But, I mean, there's a different scale. Free safeties and cornerbacks are really different. And I'll be hard-pressed. I guess if you all want to use it for some cornerbacks, you enjoy that because I won't be.
Yeah.
But either way, with the free safeties, defensive tackles, and all that, we'll get all that down on there. Yeah, but so I'm excited about it.
It's going to be the IDP version of PFF scores, essentially, and we'll have the range and everything there, so that it'll actually probably just be a color code next to the score, and as you cycle through the database, you'll be able to see. So, like, let's say, for example, you want to just get like a big play defender. You can click on and sort by interceptions, and then you can go through and see, like, maybe the first guy gets a lot of interceptions, but he's got a really shitty PAP score. But then the next guy gets like a couple less interceptions and has a good PAP score because he's more balanced. You'll be able to see that from this database. And
another thing about him is you got to look at what we have on there, because I'll use that in my articles. If you've got a guy, now the article that came out this morning on IDP, guys, I make tier changes. This is what the article's about. It's for the top guys, Vander. These are unknown or unheralded guys coming into the season because we knew of them, but now we have proof where to put them in a tier for next year. So, anyways, if you read it, you know, I suggested tiers for Leonard and then Vander, and then when I hit Hitchens, you ought to read. If you're a Hitchens owner, I think you really ought to. I'm gonna focus on him. I'm gonna ask you to read this. The guy, there's a very important thing. There's a reason the word playmaking stats is in this chart, and that is because we know, or at least I do, or most of the guys, that playmaking ability is a lot of it. Just getting tackles doesn't always cut it.
Right.
And those are usually the guys that you'll see they're just in a perfect situation, productive by default or whatever, but we need to keep an eye on them because you don't want to be so full force into them because they're going to be a lot riskier than the guys that are actually making the interceptions, the sacks, and all that other playmaking, play changing, game changing things, you know? So it's like when you look at Hitchens, I think he had eight playmaking plays besides his tackles.
Yeah.
That sucks, people. That is Preston Brown numbers. That's production by default while he was in Buffalo, and we see how he ended up in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It's just opportunity type stuff and you can look at the charts, and plus we'll be, if we use them, you know, at least me personally, I'll be pointing this out as I write, because it's just something that you need to keep in mind, and you need to know when you're making that judgment call come draft time, trade time, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chess 1200 here makes a good point. You better patent your stuff, is what he says. And we're going to be we want to keep everything free and available, but you know, this is going to be, you know, PFF charges for a reason because they're the only ones that have it. So we're going to try not to charge, but definitely if you want to help support us on Patreon, patreon.com/IDP guys, this will allow you'll never have a paywall. That's the absolute number one thing. Patreon members will never have a paywall to the site if we ever put one up. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to, but you know, with these PAP scores and stuff, if they catch on, that might be something that we need to address because, you know, let's face it, you know, we are trying to create something here that can help support, you know, multiple shows. You know, we're bringing more shows to you guys. We're bringing on more writers.
Chess, I think it was Chess, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, if I had the fundage to do, you know, to trademark and put patents on this shit, I would.
Yeah,
you know, I unfortunately I am not at liberty financially to go and take that time and that kind of expense and do this. So, I mean, if anything is to happen in the future, there's one thing that nobody will ever get, and it's in my head, to the point to where I'm not leaking it out, and that's to start.
Well, you just have to prove that you're the first one to it. You don't have to actually file anything.
Yeah. So if you see another one pop up, sit somewhere, question it, because I didn't fucking give them, and we know mine work. We know mine has a higher percentage. So, but when it comes to the PAPs or anything else, you know, if these people want to come and copy and work that hard to fucking, you know, to be us, there's always the original sitting right here in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, so who knows what's going to happen down the right? You know, we may see about patents. I might look into something like that. Who knows? But it does take fundage. And, you know, it's not like we're sitting here, you know, you don't see a Mercedes parked behind me. I ain't got no bling on, and I'm smoking $1.20 a pack cigarettes.
we
hey,
just
but my internet works. Yeah, right. But my internet works for what it's worth.
Ooh, I almost lost mine this morning. That was shitty.
Yeah, that's a heartbreaker when it happens like that.
Yeah, that would have sucked, man. I don't know. I'm glad, you know, so big news here. Joe got real equipment, as you can kind of see from the headphones and
the sounds of no cars behind me.
Yeah.
It's like graduating, ain't it, Joe?
I feel like, let me tassel over.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
I smoked mine. I'm messing around, man. That was a long time ago. We didn't even have tassels in the Stone Age.
Anyway, the fuck I did.
What? When you were?
After I graduated, I think I went to something called SafeGrad.
Oh yeah, they do that shit out here in Connecticut.
Yeah, I think
we
I
didn't
showed
do
up.
that.
Heard
We,
of it.
Incredibly stoned back then.
yeah,
To my SafeGrad. It's like, let's be safe.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh,
oh man, we didn't have that. That's weird shit out here because where I'm from in Michigan, we just had parties, and
Yeah.
that was just it.
Well, yeah, we did a lot of that.
we knew who the good party was, and everyone showed up there, and then all the bad parties, like no one showed up to.
Yeah.
Where the parents are and where you can't do anything, but there's always that one parent that was out of town during graduation, or left town for the night,
yeah.
and everyone showed up there.
Hey, not to change the subject, but I just had this brain fart. And to Chess or anybody out there, if you really think that I ought to patent this, reach out to me. We'll partner up, me, you, and Nate, and we'll work out the details if you're going to fork out the cash.
We'll
Gary
start a
likes
GoFundMe.
cash.
Let's start a
yeah.
GoFundMe for the patent.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. I never thought of that, but I'm not one to usually ask other than support the damn site to begin with, people.
Yeah.
Please, help us help you.
Yeah.
Help us keep helping you.
Right, exactly. So, real football question here. Chess 1200. He asked this a little bit ago, but I didn't want to break our fun conversation. Nick DeLuca, is he cutting Jack's time next year, or is that fake news? I'm assuming this is Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Miles Jack.
I think it's fake news. I don't think he's going to cut into Miles Jack at all. I mean, Jack.
Who is Nick? Nick who?
Nick DeLuca. I think he's actually starting at strong safety for the team this week.
No, that's not happening. No.
I thought it was Smith was playing middle or weak side, and Jack vice versa, and then DeLuca was going to start at strong side.
Because they have a kid named Jacobs playing the strong. Jacobs has been playing the strong side linebacker. He had been playing the strong side linebacker. Yeah, fellas, or everybody out there, Chess or whatever, you're going to have to excuse me. I've been real busy this week, and after the championship week is my mind, I haven't paid attention that much. I didn't do my charts this week, but the last I know of is Jacobs. A guy named Jacobs was playing the strong side linebacker position, and he started almost all year, unless this has just been recently changed. Don't worry about Miles Jack, and don't worry about Telvin Smith. If they're doing anything and they're bringing anybody up right now, they're just seeing what they got on the fucking depth chart. The only time that we should ever worry about any kind of moves that they've made in, say, week 15, 16, and 17, if they're not making the playoffs, then it's probably them looking at some depth players to see if they're worth, they got to know whether they got to draft somebody, sign somebody for depth, or what they have to do. And if it's a championship or if it's a playoff team, then they're resting their starters. So don't flip out about this, if whatever it is.
Last week, DeLuca did play, but literally there's only 3 linebackers that had any snaps for Jacksonville. It was Smith, Jack, and DeLuca. Yeah. And Smith played 98%, Jack played 100%, and then DeLuca only played 13 snaps, which was 28% of snaps.
There's the strong side linebacker right there, if that's what it was.
So
maybe Jacobs was hurt. Maybe they just wanted to see what this kid could do in place of Jacobs. Who knows?
So I got our lads up. They have a updated depth chart from yesterday. They have penciled in Lorente McCray as strong linebacker. So I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what they've got. And DeLuca behind Jack. So
they're just trying people out. Don't worry. When we get into
defensive end, looks like.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know what kind of connection the site has to the lads, but I don't trust the lads. This is no lie. I've learned a long time ago, if you go Roto World, if you go ESPN, if you go any of them, I think they get bored and say, okay, well, we'll just pencil this guy in. The best way, in my opinion, to go to the source and you want to see what the fuck's going on with depth charts, go to the team site. via NFL.com, hit up the teams, go to their site, go to
I'll be
their.
right back.
Yeah, you can push on team, then you push on depth chart, and it'll give you a much more accurate. Unless you're looking at the Patriots, because Bill Belichick doesn't update nothing, but it's something like that. But I mean, overall, I trust the NFL teams themselves over any site. Anytime. There's just too much discrepancy.
Well, in this instance, they have the exact same thing.
Okay.
Because I just double checked that. We use our lads like building up into whatchamacallit, draft season, because usually the team sites don't have anything for draft charts.
Right.
So
yeah,
our lads was the only ones that had anything.
Yeah.
So I just pulled that.
Well, that's understandable. I mean, I wasn't trying to down that. I was just saying I don't trust anybody, our lads, or any of the other sites. I mean, they might be 75% right, but usually it's the other quarter that I'm fucking looking for to begin with. So
exactly,
that's what just my opinion. Go to the team sites. It's the easiest, the best in season.
Yeah, we discussed trying to make our own depth charts. I don't know if we'll end up doing that. That was something that was thrown around early in the season by one of the writers that may or may not still be with us. That's such a difficult thing. Like, think about it in like April or June, trying to come up with, like, you're looking at your draft coming up, and you're trying to figure out, especially in like a depth league, 32 team, who's gonna be that that no name linebacker that I need to pick up, or trying to find starters.
Well, you should come ask us. I'll tell you. A lot of it, I don't think it's necessary for the IDP guys to really jump on that whole situation with the depth charts. And personally, my reason is just like I said, if you're looking at Roto World, or if you're looking at some of these sites, very few of them, once they get them penciled in and you get past the first couple of weeks, they're pretty well, they quit updating it, so they don't really so I believe that referring to the NFL sites themselves or the NFL team sites themselves is probably just as good. I'd like to see, in my opinion, I'd like to see the IDP guys continue being innovators like they are and what we've done, than offering the same exact thing that anybody can get anywhere, but that's just my opinion. So I don't think the depth charts are that big a deal.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. It was just, as you would say, a brain fart, Gary.
Yeah. I have a lot of those.
Yeah.
I probably just had one.
Yeah. But, so would like to welcome.
At your age, you can't stop them, right?
Yeah.
We have Johnny the Greek here with us now.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Hey, Johnny.
Hey.
How's it going?
Did you get your keys, man?
Sure did. I'm the proud owner of a new condo.
How is it? Is it sweet?
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I think the cat's going to like it. She gets to survey her dominion from elevated position now. So.
Yeah, bullshit. She's going to sit on your lap the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Is this like in a college town? You got any hot women around you?
No, man. No hot women. It's like in the center of town. It's like a... I don't know.
Oh my God, he's in a senior center.
Yeah, you know what? It is kind of like that.
Yeah,
that's cool. You'll be the only one making the noise.
That's it. Get those older women.
Yeah, hey, there it is, man. You'll own a few condos before the year's up.
So how you guys doing? What's new?
Just talking shit.
Yeah.
I got some actual equipment. You can't see.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
New headphones, a little microphone.
Looking good.
You can't hear the cars behind me.
That's good. Yeah,
It's exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Super.
Most didn't make it today. His internet went out early.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I almost have to do this shit from my phone.
Oh man, that's
That
wild.
would have been shitty. But no, it came up. We're good. I didn't get carried. I didn't get crap netted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Don't jinx me, man.
let's jump into another football question I got. This was a little bit ago. Country Boys Swagger. Cunty Boy. No, yep, that is Country Boys. it literally is cunt.
I apologize
Ray
for
boys.
Nate, sir.
He asks about Fred Warner. Why don't we just discuss that situation? Joe, you're probably the best person to ask there. What are we looking for next year out of Fred Warner?
Fred Warner, I think, will be better next year. This year, he was a rookie. I mean, not somebody that anybody looked at being a top-tier linebacker coming in. He wasn't even supposed to start the season. They were thinking somebody like a Brock Coyle, who wasn't really much of anything, more of a special teamer. Then played good in preseason, and then Reuben Foster was suspended, so he ended up just getting the start by proxy and ran with it. He played great. Once they lost Reuben Foster, now here you have a third-round rookie who is now making the calls on defense. He now has to get accustomed to that, which I think is in part why Elijah Lee was the guy who was the one who was producing at the end of the season. I don't think it's any fault to Fred Warner's ability. I think it was for him just adapting to actually making the calls on defense. There's a lot more on his plate to get the entire team going, as opposed to just focusing on him making a play. So Fred Warner going forward, I think next year he'll be okay. If he is the mic again, if he is making the calls, then he'll be more accustomed to it. He'll have a full off season being that guy, and it'll be easier for him. He'll be used to the defense. He won't have to worry so much.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot to do with when you're running that defense, man.
Right.
You got to make the calls on the field. You're looking at everything the offense is putting out there. You're getting your linemen to shift. You're getting your linebackers with you to shift or whatever the hell has to be done. So I totally agree. I mean, Warner is set up, whether or not what they do in the off season, they're going to have to add some linebackers.
Right.
Cole, I used to like Cole, but he can't stay healthy, so he's probably out of the picture. We know that Foster Mason is out, or whatever, Reuben Foster is out of the fucking, he's in jail probably right now, or smoking that blunt.
He will be.
But either way, or robbing some little old lady on the fucking sidewalk.
Now we got to apologize for Gary.
I threw so many fucking red flags up on him from the time that he got busted into combine. I mean, he got kicked out of the fucking combine, people.
Yeah.
That was like but anyway.
Yeah,
so,
how do you get kicked out of the combine?
Yeah, being a dick.
Yeah.
But either way, he turned around and with Warner, we'll have to watch a little bit of what they do in the off season. Okay.
Agreed.
But there is no reason that we can't suggest that he's going to be one of the starting inside linebackers next year because of what he did accomplish this year. So if you got him, I would try to hold on to him. If you can make somebody else in your league maybe possibly think, how he fell off. Look at Lee. Maybe you can buy him cheap.
Him cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think his role. What do you think, John?
Well, he had a great start to the year. I really liked him immediately. But he really cooled down towards the end. And towards the last few weeks of the season, it was either Lee or that 1 week it was Malcolm Smith. It was a lot of guys that weren't him. So I hope he improves in the offseason. But to be honest, I'm probably steering clear of him next year.
Yeah. I suppose realistically, that's the best way to kind of approach that. If you're an owner, hold him.
Yeah.
If you can buy him cheap, maybe. But if you're sitting there and you're looking at him or fucking Levant David or somebody, go with the known, But
best case scenario for Warner is they go in free agency and get themselves another middle linebacker that can take over that role.
Yeah.
And then allow him to just kind of do his thing, just make a play as opposed to call the defense.
Yeah. But he's definitely he's got a lot of upside heading into 2019 either way. So
yeah.
So
let's talk a little bit about what we had what was it before the season start. Johnny and I kind of had three guys. Well, we both kind of took different guys, but I had three guys. Fred Warner was one of them that I was kind of staking my flag on for the year. Let's talk about the other two guys and what you guys think their dynasty value is going into next year. One of them, Josh Bynes, he's injured now, obviously, but what do you think? Do you think they replace him at that position, that middle linebacker position on the Cardinals, or he comes back and possibly has another good year?
I'm not betting the house on it.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that he can't go somewhere else and be productive. I just don't see it being with the Cardinals. I think the rest of their team is quite young and they want to move in that direction. I mean, Reddick in his last 2 or 3 games, he's actually played very well. I mean, keep him going at one of the linebackers. And I think bring in somebody else. You can bring in somebody younger who's, number one, going to be cheaper and possibly be more productive. I mean, Bynes is kind of your one-trick pony. He's going to make you some tackles, maybe a couple of tackles for a loss, but he's not going to do much else for you.
Nice.
All right. My opinion is I think I'm going to pat myself on the back, but when I wrote for CG, before I joined the IDP guys, I had a blurb the day after in an article, the day after they signed Bynes to a 3-year contract. In my opinion, he is going to be in the mix again next year for the Cardinals. I even had mentioned that I had thought that at the time you were looking at Riddick and Buchanan back in January, February when I made this call and they signed him. It was right after the free agency opened. I think his outlook is going to be a decent one coming up this year. For the fact is that they signed him for 3 years for a reason. Buchanan's going to be somewhere else. I think Buchanan is done as a Cardinal. This might actually be his last year of his contract, to tell you the truth. I was thinking that. And then you got Riddick, okay? That defense, that entire fucking team has so many needs, so many things that they need to get better at in position that they're not going to necessarily concentrate on adding a top flight free agent linebacker or draft high to give Bynes the kind of competition to steal his job next year. Now, there is the downfall, is that Bynes, as Nate knows, because he had a sample of him up there in Detroit. Yeah, is that he falls under the production by default. You know, if he was on another team, he likely would be the first backup. You know, and for whatever reason, the Cardinals liked him. The Cardinals, he was actually, I wrote in that article, he was actually the best fucking graded linebacker in the squad for the Cardinals last year when he got his playing time. Okay. And I know that from doing PAPs on him. So I can tell you, in my opinion, if you own him, you know, you might want to think about selling his potential and not expect too much out of him for a dynasty league for a few years. You know, he's older. He still can be productive, but if you could use some value out of him, you know, I would probably move on.
I think it has a lot to do with what Arizona does during draft and free agency, because they do have an out for 2019 in Bynes' contract. It was a 3-year, but they do have an out for 2019, and it only hits them with $666,000 in dead space. So it's not like
he performed. He was still their best performer when he was on the field.
If Arizona goes into the season and they draft somebody, maybe like a first, second, or third rounder, or they bring somebody in free agency and they start tanking again, they're going to see who they have in the younger guys as opposed to keeping Josh Bynes on that.
Right.
Yep.
So
there is some risk there.
I could see maybe a free agency, but from what I'm hearing, the linebacker rookie class isn't going to be all that spectacular.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe if they don't get someone free agency, they punt it for a year since they do have Bynes there?
I do.
I think they're farther off than a 1-year rebuild too.
Yeah,
that's true.
So, I mean, I think Bynes could still be in play. Yeah. I think when they signed him for that 3 years, I didn't realize he had the out. I might have forgotten, but I mean, I don't necessarily think okay, so who do they have behind Buchanan and Bynes? They got Hodges. He already got kicked to the curb as soon as Buchanan was healthy. I think Buchanan probably is trade bait or gone. Somebody ought to get him and turn him back into a strong safety, actually. And then you got Riddick. So, I mean, it's kind of one of those, crap in one hand or take a shit in the other. It's
Gary, how often
wanna...
do you shit in your hand?
I don't
Only
know.
when it goes to the zoo to fight back.
Yeah. But I mean, I still, even if he's there for depth, I think he'll be for the team.
Yeah.
They can't draft. They can't sign enough linebackers, not with all the other problems they have.
Yeah.
I don't know what else they're addressing, but they've got some serious issues in Arizona, and it's going to take more than another year. So Bynes has a 50-50 shot to be another gap guy, So that's just my opinion.
So let's hit my last guy here out of Miami, Raekwon McMillan. He had a slow start to the year, but had a few startable games, a few games that did pretty well. What's your take on him? Does he have any value, or are you trying to sell his what he's done already? Get out from underneath him.
No, I think he's got value, definitely. Kiko looks like shit lately.
He's wore the fuck out.
Yeah, he had 0 points last week. That screwed a ton of people. And Raekwon, as the year has gone on, has gotten a lot. He's gotten better. I mean, I look at their box score every single week. I look at their snap count every single week, and he made marked improvement over the year. I think next year he could be like a solid tier 2 guy, pretty easily. What do you guys think?
I like Raekwon McMillan myself. I like him more than I like Jerome Baker. And I think with the way Kiko ended the season, they could actually use Kiko as trade bait to get something else. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what his contract is, but he's kind of an injury-prone player. He's been ever since his rookie season. But he's still a good productive player when healthy. So if you can get rid of him and then you have still a nice young core of McMillan and Baker, I think McMillan's the higher producer.
Nice.
I'd like to say off the top, congratulations for Kiko Alonso for being that old guy and what he's gone through in his career to come out this year and carry that fucking linebacker core as long as he did before he fucking lost a will. Okay? In all due respect, I'm not even going to factor him in my decision of what I'm going to say about McMillan. I was on the McMillan bandwagon as a rookie, and I don't do that very often on rookies. Back at the beginning of the year when you guys had this topic, Nate, about, guys that you were really going for, I was already trying to preach to people when he was underperforming in preseason, underperforming in the beginning of the year as we went. I kept telling everybody, just pump the fucking brakes, people. He just come off a knee injury. It hadn't even been but a year. Just give the guy, he is the same player he was when he was going to be a star as a rookie. He just got hurt. So, and with that being said, I think by the time we reach next year, I think that we're looking at the Baker McMillan show down there. They got two Buckeyes standing side by side. They've played together in college. These guys are no joke. That is your fucking future in Miami. Whether Kiko is there next year or not, it still doesn't matter in a dynasty league. You're definitely targeting McMillan and Baker. That's the next step.
My question being for next year, so you have obviously both Baker and McMillan. They're going to be starters. Kiko as well. Kiko is on contract through 2020. Do you trust keeping somebody on? Say you need a different position, and you have McMillan on your team, but he might not be a good start week to week because that production kind of bounced back and forth between Baker, Alonso, and McMillan throughout the season.
What's Kiko making next year?
Kiko is making, I think, 6.8. Oh, no. Yeah, 6.5 actually next year with 1.7 in incentives.
Okay. Well, I am going to stand firm. Whether or not on McMillan?
Yeah.
I would let Kiko go before McMillan.
Right. So, but say, do you sit there and if you have a need somewhere else and you're sitting on McMillan hoping he is going to produce soon or for the future,
Yeah,
do you?
I think McMillan leads the team in tackles next year.
Yeah.
Point
So you
blank.
sit on him. All right.
Point blank. Point
Okay.
blank. He'll be back when we were doing this before at the beginning of the year. A couple times I was on the pod with Nate and John on the IDP guys. And me and John had this thing where we were talking and he was kind of picking out Miles Jack. Sorry to bring that up, John.
Yeah, God.
He's still fucking worth a hold, man. Miles Jack, he's sitting by Telvin Smith. My God,
Yeah,
right. But either way,
And he's definitely talented.
Yeah, and
Yes,
he's
and I was
looked
pulling
better
for Jalen
lately
Smith.
too. He's looked better
Yeah.
lately. Yeah.
And I was pulling for Jalen Smith. I didn't believe the hype that Van Der Esch was coming in and taking Smiths because that's what I was hearing right after the draft. And I wrote an article about it, blah, blah, blah. But either way, I knew Van Der Esch would step in eventually when one of them got hurt. And odds were it was going to be Lee with his soft tissue injuries that he's got a history of. So I'm looking at McMillan kind of like the Jalen Smith for the Miami Dolphins next year. He's got a year after injury. He's got it behind him now. He's ready to be that guy going into, it should be year 3, but it's really only year 2 of his playing career because he was hurt. And I really think that we're looking at McMillan and Baker next year over Kiko, no matter what Kiko's making. $7 million to have a fucking solid ass vet like Kiko is safe, So you can it wouldn't be the first time that, look at Sean Lee. It wouldn't be the first time that a really good veteran losing his step as he goes starts taking a back seat and transition to the new generation.
Yeah.
So I really still see McMillan being the top dog, and Baker and Kiko probably coming in second. I like Baker. I thought Baker was going to outplay Kiko for the weak side. I really did. I made that call. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
So he still produced.
Interesting thing. I'm looking at Sports Track. I'm looking at Alonso's cap right now, and in 2019, a post June 1st cut would only be 1.7 in dead cap. 1.7 million.
All right.
So they have an option. They have an out if they draft again. I don't know how well this linebacker rookie class is gonna be, or if they get someone in free agency. But if
they don't have to hit a home run.
Yeah, if they have someone come in to challenge Alonso and they win, they have the option to, let Alonso go. So,
yeah. I'm glad you looked that up, man. Yeah, it's because we got to think it. We got to put that in there. That's not much. That's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Based off of like this year's linebacking class, there's a lot of guys mid-rounds that can help fill a lineup for depth. If you look back at the article I wrote filling in for Reuben Foster, there's actually a lot of guys from like 3 all the way to 7 that can actually play. Not somebody who's going to come in and be your top linebacker, but there's some decent talent. Somebody who can step in, get you 5-6 tackles a week if he has to start.
Nice. Yeah.
And the going trend on that, it was a few weeks ago. I was mentioning I have that rookie success rate article out over 5 years. I'll be updating that. There is going to be a little bit more of a trend of some success among the IDP rookies making it up. But the biggest fucking thing to take out of this is normally the year after it drops. It drops right back down. That percentage of success drops again for the rookie class. For the fact is, you just had this class perform well, step in, fill the roles. You've got second, third year, and fourth year players coming up in the NFL as they've gotten better over the years. So expect a drop off in the IDP class of the rookies period. I don't even know. I expected that before you even hear. This is the first I've mentioned because somebody came back out on me at Twitter and said, well, there's one hell of a class coming out this coming year. And I said, it doesn't matter. History repeats itself. And I'll be shocked if it doesn't after this year,
Yeah.
But anyways,
From what I've heard, the strongest position coming out of the draft defensively is defensive ends. The
Edge rush.
edge rushing is
yeah. Well, they could stand that this year. They could stand that because the trend, if you look at the safeties, I mean, over the last 2 years, there's been a god awful amount of fucking safeties that's become relevant players or starters in the NFL over the last, and it has a lot to do with those 3 safety sets. The college ranks are fucking producing these kids. They've transformed themselves into. Remember when Mark Barron was a safety? Remember when Buchanan was a safety? Remember when Deion Jones come in and they said he's too small because he's built like a fucking safety? You know, this is the trend. Smaller, faster, guys that can cover the fucking pass. So it's all an evolution. It's all evolved out of the college. The kids themselves know how to develop themselves. They're like, okay, wait a minute. If you've got anybody whispering in your ear, dude, you'd make a lot better fucking small, weak linebacker, weak side linebacker than you would a fucking safety. Put some weight on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's real. It's not fake. You know. So it doesn't. So with the defensive linemen, there are a lot of teams that could use some defensive linemen. Miami being one of them.
Yeah.
You know, they're long in the tooth, and they're not getting the job done. I'm trying to think of
San Francisco.
San Francisco could use a lot of fucking help. Oakland could probably still stand some help. You're realistically, Indianapolis could stand a little bit more help. You know, these older guys. So it's good to hear that there's a decent class coming out. Unfortunately, when it comes to the defensive linemen, there's usually only a couple of them a year that even do anything. You find it hard for outside linebackers and defensive linemen to completely stand out in their category, you know. So then this was a good year. So it takes them a few years to develop. Look at NASA, you know. There's a kid I'm watching right now. That Harris that Miami. He just got done. They drafted him last year. I think it was like the first or second round. Might have been actually. This might actually be going in
out
his
of
third.
Missouri.
Yeah.
Harris.
I thought it was Harris.
Yeah, he's from Missouri though. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. But they started working his ass in on some snaps at the beginning of the year in the games, but then he turned around and got hurt. And then I think they started working him back in those last few weeks. If they were still doing it, I haven't looked lately. That's a kid to keep an eye on. He was on my IDPR, is what I like to call it. You know, so I mean, a lot of these guys, you know, I'm trying to think of some names. I mean, Lawrence for Dallas, he wasn't nothing until like his 4th or 5th year, was he?
Yeah, he didn't start out too hot. Last 2 years he's been good. That's about it though.
Yeah. So there's players like him all over the league where they become viable IDP players after 3 or 4 years if they're defensive linemen. You know, yeah. Just a trend. Just a trend. So don't forget about them. Those are the ones you don't want to forget about because they're sitting out there and they're not on people's rosters because they're like, oh, he was a bust. It's not like a linebacker. It's not like a wide receiver. It's not like a running back. You don't decide within 2 years if a defensive lineman's a bust.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. You know, it's a totally different way of approaching it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we're going to start wrapping this up. It was great conversation, really good at the beginning of the show. Now we're really getting into the football stuff. So, but we're launching into the off-season content now. Now that you know the fantasy football playoffs are over, we're getting into regular football playoffs. We're going to be talking free agents. We're going to be talking draft stuff. You know, keep it here. Keep your browser on the idpguys.org. Also, make sure you're following us on Twitter at IDP Guys. I'm at Nate Cheat. John is at OrangeMan3142. Gary here is at HBogart27. Joe is at Joseph Hagan. Make sure you're following Sam, the Scott Fishbowl 8 champion.
I miss you, Sam.
He is at FF Stompy. Check out our show. We're probably going to be, once the football playoffs are over, we'll be taking a little bit of a break, but in the meantime, we'll have that regular
No
show
BS
coming out.
IDP.
Give me a second. On Tuesdays, you can subscribe on the website, idpguys.org. There's on the sidebar, there's Stitcher, Google Play, and iTunes, as well as an RSS feed. We've got the new podcast coming out with Gary, Sam, and Joe, the No BS IDP podcast. Follow that on Twitter at No BS IDP. This send off is getting longer and longer, and usually I don't.
That's
stick
a lot
the
of
landing.
BS's, man.
Yeah.
Maybe hold a sign up.
Right. Yeah. So yeah.
John,
thanks. Go ahead.
John, I really fucking hope that condo is all it's supposed to be. You missed the first half of this shit, dude.
Yeah. No, you
And
know
better
what?
have a fucking jacuzzi with like some 70-year-old lady in a bikini waiting on you. With a fart fetish.
Oh my
man.
goodness.
Yeah, you guys know I'm into the fart fetish.
That's some nasty water.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so thanks everyone for joining us. Everyone who's going to be listening to this later, it was a great show, and I think we're gonna keep this going. I'm gonna check the metrics, see how we had some good back and forth with people earlier, and it kind of dropped off. So, but it a lot of good. It's good to get these guys all together in one room. So, with that, thank you, and see you
Bye.
next week.
All right.